I still remember the way my hands shook that morning. I was standing in the lawyer's office, surrounded by the same siblings I grew up with, the same people I once shared food, rooms, secrets, and laughter with. But that day, they looked at me like I was a stranger who forced her way in. The lawyer cleared his throat and said, "We received the DNA test confirming she is not biologically related to the family, so she cannot benefit from the will." My heart stopped. My legs felt weak. My ears rang. For a moment, everything around me went silent, like someone pressed a giant mute button on the world. My siblings, Susan, Michael, and James, stood beside the family doctor, smiling in a strange, cold way I had never seen before. I looked at them and whispered, "What are you talking about? The DNA must be wrong." But Michael leaned forward, his voice sharp like a knife. "Stop pretending. You never belonged here. Dad shouldn't have given you anything." The lawyer pushed a paper toward me. "This is the test result." I picked it up with shaking hands and read the line that crushed my soul. "Not related to the family." Tears filled my eyes, but I couldn't cry yet, not in front of people who wanted to see me break. Then suddenly, just as the room grew colder, the door burst open. It was an old nurse, one I hadn't seen in years. Her eyes were wild, her breath was heavy, and she shouted, "Don't sign anything. The DNA is fake." Everyone froze. The doctor's face turned white. And that was the moment I knew. My life was about to change completely. Now let me take you back to how everything started. I grew up in a simple but happy home. I was the eldest child, the one who always helped my parents with chores, cooking, and taking care of my younger siblings. Even though we didn't have much, our house was filled with laughs and small joys that made life sweet. My mother used to call me her piece, and my father would pat my shoulder proudly, saying, "You're the strong one in this family." Those little words meant everything to me. But something changed when my mother died. I was 17. The house that used to feel warm suddenly felt cold, like a room with open windows in the middle of winter. My father tried his best, but losing his wife broke him in ways we didn't understand at that time. That was also when our family doctor, Dr. Harris, became a regular visitor. He would come to check on my father, sometimes staying longer than needed. I didn't think much of it then. Years passed, and I became the second mother of the home, cooking, cleaning, taking care of my siblings while my father handled the business. I didn't complain. I believed we were a team. But little did I know, that love I invested in my siblings would one day be used against me like a sharp blade. One rainy day, everything began to change. My father called us to the living room. He looked older than usual, tired, like he had been thinking all night. We all sat down and waited for him to speak. He cleared his throat slowly and said, "I have written my will." My siblings exchanged glances, but I didn't feel anything dramatic. I knew my father was fair. I trusted him. "I want everything to be shared equally," he said firmly. But the moment he said that, I saw the way my siblings' faces changed. Their eyes darkened, not with sadness, but with greed. Not too long after that, strange things began to happen. My siblings stopped greeting me well. They whispered behind doors. They made phone calls that ended abruptly whenever I walked in. One evening, I overheard James talking on the phone. He whispered, "We must do it before Dad changes his mind again. Yes, Dr. Harris said he can help us." Help with what? I stepped back before he saw me. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. But deep in my chest, something felt wrong. The turning point came 2 months later. My father fell sick. It wasn't a normal sickness. He just kept getting weaker every day. Dr. Harris came often, but instead of helping, my father seemed to get worse. One night, I found my father crying in his room. I sat beside him and held his hand. He looked into my eyes and said, "If anything happens to me, don't let them push you aside. You are my child." I smiled gently. "Dad, why would anyone push me aside?" He didn't answer. He simply squeezed my hand and whispered, "Be careful." A week later, he died. My heart broke in ways I didn't know were possible. But my real pain hadn't even begun. The day after the burial, my siblings locked the study room and stopped me from entering. They began whispering louder, arguing, fighting over documents. Every time I tried to help, they pushed me away like some uninvited visitor. Then the lawyer called. When he said we should all come to his office, my siblings suddenly started acting strangely kind, too kind. That's when I knew something was wrong. But I never expected what happened next. We all sat down in the lawyer's office, and that was where the bomb dropped. The DNA test that said I was not part of the family. I stared at the result, my heart breaking into pieces. And just when they were about to force me to sign a paper that would remove me from the will entirely, the nurse ran in screaming that everything was fake. But before I could ask her a single question, she turned to me with tears in her eyes and said, "You were never supposed to see that test. The truth, the real truth, is buried deeper than you think." And at that exact moment, Dr. Harris jumped out of his chair and shouted, "Stop talking." His face was red. His hands were shaking. The lawyer stood up in confusion. My siblings stared like they knew the truth was about to explode. And suddenly, the situation became dangerous. Because the nurse took a deep breath and said, "He knows what he did. All of them do. And if I speak now, everything will scatter." But before she could continue, someone rushed toward her and tried to drag her out of the room. Everyone screamed at the same time. The moment the nurse tried to speak again, James, my own younger brother, rushed toward her and grabbed her arm like he wanted to force her out of the office. The lawyer stood up so fast his chair fell backward. Papers flew everywhere. The doctor tried to shout over everyone, but his voice got swallowed by the chaos. I pushed my chair back and ran to the nurse. "Let her go," I shouted, pulling James away with all my strength. "Stay out of this," he barked at me, his eyes wild and desperate. The nurse stumbled but didn't fall. She straightened herself, breathing hard, her face full of fear, but also courage. "You will not silence me again," she said in a shaky but firm voice. "Not today." Dr. Harris's face turned redder than a tomato. "Get out of here, Nurse Helen," he yelled. "This doesn't concern you." Helen stepped back, right beside me, and said softly, "It concerns her more than anyone." My heart thumped loudly. I could feel a truth coming, a heavy one, a truth that had been hidden for years. But before she could say another word, the lawyer raised both hands and shouted, "Enough! Nobody touches anyone. Everybody sit down now." We all froze. Slowly, everyone sat. The room went painfully quiet, like everyone was scared that one wrong sound might crack the whole truth open. Helen looked at me, her eyes full of tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "For what?" I asked, my voice shaking. She swallowed hard, then spoke loudly. "The DNA you were shown is fake. Dr. Harris helped them switch it." My siblings gasped. The doctor slammed his fist on the table. "That's a lie. She's lying." But something in his voice didn't sound like anger. It sounded like fear. Michael stood up, pointing at me. "We just wanted proof. You don't look like us, you." I cut him off. "So your solution was to lie, to erase me, after all I did for you." Susan looked away, tears in her eyes, but she kept quiet. She didn't defend me. She didn't defend the truth. She just sat there like a ghost. The lawyer shook his head. "If this is true, this is a criminal act." That was when Helen finally said it. "The real DNA was never negative. She is your father's child. I saw the original result. Dr. Harris shredded it the same night." Everyone turned to look at the doctor. My brain felt like it stopped working. My mouth went dry. I'm my father's real child," I whispered. Helen nodded. "Yes, you are." I felt something break inside me. Relief, anger, shock, pain, all mixed together like a storm. But before I could ask the most important question, "Why?" Michael suddenly shouted. "We did it because Dad loved you too much. He left you the biggest share of the will." My chest tightened. The biggest share. Dad gave me what? I asked, confused. James slapped his hand on the table, frustrated. He gave you the house, the business, the land, everything important. So that was it. Not just jealousy. Not just greed. It was fear. Fear that I, the eldest sister, the one who raised them after Mom died, would receive the biggest blessing from our father. And they were willing to erase me from the family to stop it. But something still didn't add up. That was when Helen, hands trembling, finally whispered something so heavy the room slowly tilted around me. Your mother, the woman who raised you, is not the one who gave birth to you. My heart stopped. My siblings looked confused. Even the lawyer froze. What do you mean? I asked, squeezing the chair until my fingers hurt. Helen wiped her eyes. You're your father's child, but you have a different mother. He hid it from everyone. Only 2 people knew the truth, your father and the doctor. The doctor stood up angrily. Shut up, Helen. But she continued. Your real mother died the day you were born. Your father begged Dr. Harris to protect you, to keep it quiet. He was scared his wife wouldn't accept you, so you were raised as the first child of the family. I felt my world tilt. Everything suddenly made sense. Why Mom was always a little distant with me. Why Dad always held me so close. Why he said, don't let them push you aside. Tears rolled down my cheeks. I couldn't stop them. I didn't even try. Susan whispered softly, so you're not our full sister. I looked at her with wet eyes and said, but I was still the one who raised you. She lowered her head. Shame covered her face. Michael stood up. This still doesn't change anything. She doesn't deserve more than us. This changes everything, the lawyer said firmly. What you all did is illegal. Forging medical documents, lying to influence a will, and conspiring with a doctor, all of you could go to jail. The room filled with gasps. The doctor grabbed his briefcase, trying to run. Sit down, Harris, the lawyer shouted. But the doctor rushed toward the door. Helen grabbed my arm. Call the police. He's even more dangerous than you know. I moved toward my bag to get my phone, but before I could reach it, Dr. Harris pushed the door open and bolted out of the building. My siblings panicked. The lawyer shouted for security. I stood there frozen, my heart pounding. Why was he running like a criminal? What else was he hiding? Helen whispered again, this time trembling so hard she could barely breathe. There's more, much more, and if we don't catch him now, he will destroy all the evidence. Before I could speak, before anyone could breathe, the office phone rang. The lawyer picked it up. His face turned pale. Slowly, he looked at us and said, it's the hospital. Dr. Harris just forced his way into their records room. Helen gasped loudly. My siblings jumped up in fear. And I felt my knees buckle. Because if he was going to the records room, he was going to finish what he started years ago. He was going to erase every trace of the truth. And right at that moment, the lawyer shouted for everyone to get into his car. We must stop him now. My heart thumped like a drum. Because I knew. This wasn't just about the will anymore. It was about uncovering a secret much bigger than I imagined. A secret that could turn my whole life upside down. And as we rushed toward the door, something inside me whispered. We all rushed out of the lawyer's office like people running from a burning building. The air outside felt hot and heavy, but my body felt cold. My heart was beating so fast that every breath felt like a struggle. The lawyer opened the back door of his car. Hurry. If Dr. Harris reaches that records room and destroys everything, we may never know the full truth. Helen held my arm tightly. You need to be there, she whispered. You deserve to know everything. My siblings climbed into the car without arguing. For the first time in a long time, they were not bold or proud. They looked scared, really scared. Maybe because they finally understood how dangerous the doctor they trusted had become. We sped out of the parking lot. The sound of the tires screeching made my stomach twist. The entire drive, nobody spoke. The only noise in the car was the sound of the engine and my quick breathing. I kept thinking about the things Helen had said. My mother was not my mother. My father hid the truth. The doctor knew everything. And worst of all, my siblings tried to erase me. Not because they truly hated me, but because they were scared of losing the things they loved. My heart hurt, but a tiny part of me still held on to hope. Maybe there was more to the story, something I didn't understand yet. When we reached the hospital, security guards were running around in confusion. One of them approached the lawyer. "Are you the ones from the police call?" he asked. "Yes," the lawyer said. "Where is Dr. Harris?" "He forced his way into the basement records room," the guard replied. "We tried stopping him, but he threatened us. He said he just needed 5 minutes." 5 minutes, Helen gasped. That's enough time to destroy a person's whole life. We ran down the hallway. My legs shook. My hands shook. My heart felt like it was trying to break out of my chest. When we reached the elevator, the guard shouted, "Take the stairs." He locked the elevator. We practically flew down the steps. At the bottom of the stairs, we reached a heavy door with a sign. "Medical records, authorized staff only." It was slightly open. Inside, we heard noise, papers being thrown, drawers opening and slamming, something metallic falling on the floor. The lawyer pushed the door wide open. What we saw made everyone freeze. Dr. Harris was standing in the middle of the records room, holding a large black plastic bag stuffed with files. The entire floor was covered with shredded documents, torn papers, and smashed hard drives. He turned toward us slowly, his eyes wild and full of something I had never seen before, fear mixed with madness. Michael whispered, "Oh my God." The doctor pointed a shaking finger at me. "This is your fault," he shouted. "If you had just signed the paper and accepted the DNA, none of this would be happening." "What are you doing?" I screamed. "What are you trying to hide?" He laughed, a strange, broken laugh. "Everything, every record, every truth, every secret. Your father trusted me, and I promised him, PROMISEDHIM, that I would protect his family." James stepped forward. "By lying, by forging DNA, by ruining our lives." The doctor's face twisted. "You fools, you don't know anything. None of you understand what your father was trying to protect." Helen whispered behind me, "He's losing control." Then the doctor pointed at me again. "She was never supposed to know, not like this. Your father wanted to tell you himself, but he ran out of time. I tried to help him, but your siblings." He glared at them. "Your siblings got greedy, and when they came to me begging for a way to remove her, He suddenly stopped talking. His eyes flicked toward the bag in his hand. And then he bolted. "Stop HIM, the lawyer shouted. Everyone ran. The doctor sprinted out of the room, racing through the hallway like a madman. Nurses screamed. Patients looked confused. The security guards tried to stop him, but he dodged them. We chased him through the corridors. "Drop the bag, Harris," the lawyer yelled. But he didn't listen. He ran toward the back exit, the emergency door that led toward the hospital's dumpsters. If he reached that place, he could burn the files or throw them away forever. My legs were burning, but I kept running. I had to. Everything, my life, my identity, my truth, was in that bag. Then something happened that none of us expected. Susan, who had always been the quietest among us, suddenly ran ahead of everyone. She sprinted like she had fire in her feet, and just when the doctor reached the metal door, she jumped and grabbed the back of his coat. They both fell hard to the ground. The bag flew from his hand. Files spilled out everywhere like a fountain of secrets. The doctor roared in anger. "You stupid girl, let go of me." But Susan held onto his arm like her life depended on it. The security guards rushed in and pinned him down. He struggled, kicked, shouted, but he couldn't escape. Helen ran to the scattered documents. Grab them before he destroys them." We knelt on the floor, picking up papers, stuffing them back into the bag. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the files. One document slid across the floor toward my feet. I picked it up. When I read the name on the top, my breath left my body. It was a birth record. My birth record. But what shocked me was the name written under Mother. A woman I had never heard of. Not the name of the mother I grew up with. Not the name of a relative. A completely different name. My vision blurred. I felt dizzy. My throat went dry. My siblings gathered around me. "What is that?" Susan asked softly. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Helen touched my shoulder. "That's the truth your father was hiding." I stared at the paper again, my hand trembling so hard the edges fluttered. The document said something else, something that made my legs weaken. My real mother died under mysterious circumstances. A cold wind seemed to blow through the hallway. I looked up at Helen. What does this mean?" Before she could answer, the doctor, pinned down on the floor, shouted, "You supposed to find that." His voice echoed through the building. Everyone turned to him. He looked furious, but also terrified. And then he said something that made every bone in my body freeze. "Your real mother didn't die by accident. Your father tried to protect you from the truth, from the people involved, from the hands that caused it." I felt my heart slam against my ribs. "What are you talking about? Who killed her?" I whispered. He smirked at me, a dark smirk. "You've been living among them your whole life." My stomach twisted painfully. Susan covered her mouth. Michael stepped back. James shook his head slowly, whispering, "No, that can't be." But before the doctor could say another word, the lights in the hallway suddenly went out. The entire place fell into darkness. People screamed. And in that darkness, I heard footsteps, fast, heavy footsteps, running toward the back of the hospital. A door slammed. Someone had escaped. But who? When the lights came back on, the doctor was still pinned down. The lawyer was still there. Helen was still holding the documents. But one of my siblings, one of them, was missing. And at that moment, we all realized. Someone didn't want the truth to come out. Someone wanted the past to stay buried. And someone was willing to run before their name was revealed. My voice shook as I whispered, Where is James?" Everyone turned. James was gone. And just like that, the mystery became darker. The truth became more dangerous. And the story took a turn none of us were prepared for. Because the person who vanished might be the one holding the darkest truth of all. The moment we realized James was missing, the entire hallway felt colder, like someone had opened a door to a dark, empty world. Nurses were whispering. The security guards looked confused. My siblings stared in shock, and Helen held the documents tighter against her chest like she was holding a newborn baby. I felt my knees weaken. James. My own brother. The same person I carried on my back when he was little. The same boy who used to cry whenever he scraped his knee. The same child I taught to tie his shoelaces. He had run before the truth could swallow him. Michael swallowed hard. Maybe he just went to the bathroom. "No," Susan whispered, shaking her head. He ran because he knows something." Her voice broke. Tears slipped down her cheeks. The lawyer spoke quickly. "Security, lock all exits. Search the back area. He couldn't have gone far." Guards rushed away, but my heart already knew the truth. James did not want to be found. The doctor, still pinned to the floor, laughed in a cold, tired way. Of all of them, I knew it would be him. I stepped forward. "Tell me the truth. What does James have to do with my mother's death?" He looked up at me with small, sharp eyes. "That boy knows things your father never wanted you to hear." "Like what?" I asked, feeling my chest tighten. Helen stepped in quickly. "Be careful. Anything he says now could be twisted." The doctor smirked. Oh, don't worry, the truth is simple. Her real mother didn't just die mysteriously. She was pushed away, removed, hidden, and your father feared the same thing would happen to you. The world around me spun for a moment. Removed by who? I whispered. The doctor leaned his head back against the floor and sighed. Your father had enemies, people who didn't want his wealth divided, people who believed that you, his first child, should not exist. My fingers trembled. My siblings. He tilted his head. Not all of them. Only one of them knew the full story, and he has been protecting himself ever since. I froze. Michael and Susan stared at each other with wide, confused eyes. The doctor whispered, "James." Susan gasped loudly. "Oh, dear God." Michael clenched his hands. No, no, this is not real. James, our James." The lawyer stood tall. "Dr. Harris, did James have something to do with the forged DNA?" The doctor looked away, avoiding everyone's eyes. And that silence, that heavy, thick silence, was the answer. Helen pushed her glasses up and spoke softly. "He helped arrange it, didn't he?" The doctor finally nodded. The room felt like it bent inward, squeezing the oxygen out of my lungs. I whispered, barely able to breathe. Why would he do that? The doctor closed his eyes, as if he was tired of everything. Because he always felt like the weakest. Your father trusted you more than the others, and when he learned that your father left you the biggest share, he panicked. He wanted to protect himself. He thought if you were removed, everything would be equal. Tears filled my eyes. James, my little brother, had feared me, feared being left behind, feared losing something. The lawyer took the doctor and handed him over to security. "He will face charges," the lawyer said. "But right now we need to find James." Susan grabbed my hands suddenly. Her grip was desperate. "I didn't know, I swear I didn't know," she cried. "I thought we were only checking the will. I didn't understand the rest. Please believe me." Her tears were real. Her voice shook like a broken string. I nodded slowly. "I believe you." She collapsed into my arms, crying. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything." Michael looked at me with shame written all over his face. "You raised us," he said quietly, "and we betrayed you." I wiped my face. "There's still time to fix things, but right now we must find James. He's afraid and cornered." The lawyer approached us. "I think I know where he might have gone." We turned to him. He continued, "Your father used to talk about an abandoned storehouse, his old workshop. He said he kept some private things there before the business grew." Michael's eyes widened. "You think James went there to hide?" Susan whispered, "Or to destroy something." I felt a sharp pain in my chest. "We have to go, now." We rushed out of the hospital, calling for a taxi. The sky was darkening, clouds gathering as if they knew a storm was coming. The ride felt endless. The whole way there, I kept remembering little things about James. How he used to sit close to me when storms scared him. How he used to hold my hand on the way to school. How he used to say, "You're the best sister in the world." But greed and fear can change people. Even people you love. When we reached the old workshop, the place looked abandoned. Dusty, silent. A broken sign hung from one nail. We slowly walked toward the door. The lawyer whispered, "Be careful, we don't know what state he's in." The wind blew hard. I pushed the door gently. It creaked open. Inside, we saw James, sitting on the floor, holding the remaining documents in his shaking hands. He looked up at us with tear-filled eyes. "I didn't want it to go this far," he whispered. I just didn't want to lose everything." I stepped toward him slowly. "James, why did you run?" He covered his face with his hands. "Because I thought the doctor would blame me for everything. I thought I'd go to jail." Susan rushed to him. "We're not here to hurt you," she said softly. "We're here to fix things." James shook his head. Tears fell through his fingers. I don't deserve forgiveness. I knelt beside him. You're my brother, I whispered. And no matter what you did, I still love you, but we must face the truth. He slowly lowered his hands. His eyes were red, his face pale. He looked like a little boy again, lost, scared, confused. I didn't know about your real mother, he confessed. I swear, I never knew. I thought the fake DNA was just a way to balance the will. I placed my hand on his shoulder. You should have talked to me. He cried harder. I was scared you would take everything. I would never do that, I said. You are my family, even when you hurt me. Michael and Susan knelt beside us. For the first time in a long time, we were together. Not fighting. Not angry. Just broken humans trying to fix something. The lawyer spoke cautiously. You still have to answer for what you did, James. But if you come with us peacefully, it will be easier. James nodded slowly. He handed me the documents. They were all about my real mother. Pictures, records, letters. A life I never knew. I felt tears run down my cheeks. I wish Dad had told me, I whispered. The lawyer said softly. He wanted to. He left a letter for you. I didn't show it yet because of all the chaos. A letter, I breathed. Yes, he said. He wrote it before he passed. My heart cracked in half. We returned to the lawyer's office. Everyone sat quietly. The lawyer placed a sealed letter in my hands. I opened it slowly. My father's handwriting flowed across the page. My dear daughter, you were my first joy, the child who taught me how to love deeply. I have kept many secrets to protect you, not because I doubted you, but because I feared the world around you. I wanted to tell you the truth myself, that you are my child, born of a love I never forgot. Forgive me for my silence. And no matter what happens, know this. You belong in this family. You are my blood. And your heart is the strongest part of this home. My heart broke completely. Tears poured down my face. I held the letter against my chest. My siblings cried. James sobbed silently. Helen wiped her eyes. Even the lawyer looked away to hide his emotions. For a long, quiet minute, nobody moved. Then I stood up. My voice was soft but steady. I forgive all of you, I said, because a family doesn't break apart over greed. It breaks apart when love disappears. If we want to heal, we must bring love back. Susan hugged me tightly. Michael joined. Even James, shaking and emotional, wrapped his arms around us. And finally, for the first time since my father died, we stood together. The lawyer nodded. Your father would be proud. Later, James turned himself involuntarily, and because he confessed everything, the punishment was lighter. The doctor, however, faced full consequences for forging medical documents and destroying records. The truth about my real mother was restored. My father's will was honored exactly as he wrote it. And slowly, day by day, our family healed. I learned one powerful lesson. Blood makes you relatives, but love makes you family. And no matter who tried to erase me, I discovered the truth. I belonged all along. Thanks for watching. Kindly drop your comment about this video. And please subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories.